From Jonathan and from me, welcome to Friday's Anglia Tonight.
First tonight, the dramatic effect the rise in oil prices is having, not just on drivers in our region, but even the sea off our coast.
Dozens of tankers, as you can see there over our shoulders, have gathered a few miles off Southwold in Suffolk, apparently waiting for the price of oil to rise before they unload their cargoes. We have two reports tonight.
In a moment, we're going to hear from Neil Bradford in Northampton on how motorists there are coping with fuel prices that are back up to around £5 a gallon.
But first, Victoria Webb at Southwold, where local people are growing increasingly concerned about the environmental dangers. Victoria, you've had a bird's-eye view today of the scale of this.
Yes, I have. It didn't take us long to find these tankers. We'd flown just 2.5 miles in from shore when we came across our first one. Tonight, not far from Southwold Pier, you can see them all lined up in the distance. They're dubbed shark tankers. It's believed many of them are just waiting there for fuel prices to go up. There are currently 37 of them anchored off Southwold. I was told that at first residents enjoyed seeing the lights in the distance, but as the numbers have grown, so has concern. With them dominating the waters around here, fishermen are having to travel further afield, but there's also concern about the environmental impact, the possibility of an oil spillage and what that could mean for our coastline.
It's a sight that's becoming all too familiar on the Suffolk coast. As the months pass, new tankers arrive, adding to the growing numbers that are loitering offshore.
One local fisherman told me that this time last year there were just 5 or 6 tankers in the sea off Southwold. Looking out there today, more and more keep appearing in the distance. There are almost 40 tankers in the water at the moment, and that appears to be the biggest fleet around the British Isles.
For 15 years, there have been ship-to-ship transfers of oil going on off the coast here. But there's been a huge rise in the number of tankers in the past 7 months, and the economic climate is being blamed. A few of these tankers have been anchored here since December. Some are reportedly carrying fuel that's already been bought by market speculators. By storing oil at sea instead, it's claimed the owners can wait for fuel prices to rise, allowing more profit to be made before they're unloaded. We flew out over Kessingland and reached our first tanker just 2.5 miles from the beach. The vessel's proximity to the shore is causing great concern.
If they were all full of oil, which is debatable, but if there was, there'd be 8 million tonnes of oil off our coast. Southwold is one of the most tranquil and beautiful seaside resorts in Britain, totally unspoilt. It's why people come from absolutely miles and from abroad here. If we had a slight hiccup with an oil spillage or something, it'd be disastrous for our area.
The tankers cover a 30-mile area from Aldborough to north of Lowestoft. The closest are anchored 2.5 miles from shore, with others as far as 16 miles out, which is where they transfer the fuel. Chris Whiteman's been fishing in the area all his life. He's never known there to be so many and says they're affecting his livelihood.
It limits the ground what you can go to, and because they move overnight, you're never quite sure exactly where they're going to be on a daily basis, so you might get to the grounds where you want to work and not be able to and have to carry on for several miles before you can get to a clear space of grounds.
This stretch of coastline provides relatively tranquil waters for the North Sea, and that's also why so many tankers shelter here. The campaign to remove them from the area is being backed by the local MP.
It shouldn't be like this. We should always have recognised that no boat should be allowed to transfer oil off the coast in this way. And the fact that we're the last placed remaining and that nobody bothered to do this without local pressure is, I think, very serious.
There'll be many people hoping something can be done to safeguard the coastline and to stop our fuel prices becoming a game that keeps on drawing these giants to within miles of our shores. Victoria Webb, Anglia News, Southwold.
Environmental concerns there. So while the oil tankers wait for prices to rise, increases in the cost of fuel are already hitting motorists hard. With petrol and diesel already hovering around the £5 per gallon mark, it seems the only way is up, especially when the government puts VAT back up to 17.5% in the new year. Well, Neil Bradford has been talking to motorists, engaging the effect on them. He joins us now from a petrol station in Northampton. So, Neil, what's the reaction like there?
Well, quite simply, anger. It feels like we've been here before, doesn't it? And that's because we have. And as the price of petrol at the pump continues to rise, so too does the anger of motorists. And if you think these prices, some of the best in the area, in fact, are bad, wait until the new year when prices are expected to increase even further. And as I've been discovering today, you don't even need to own a car to be affected by the hike in fuel prices.
They may not have driven for years, but even these pensioners are affected by the rising cost of diesel. Many rely on Nick Colantonio and his mobile shop, which he's been operating in and around Northampton for more than 20 years. High petrol costs are beginning to hit profits. It could mean his customers, those who can least afford it, may end up footing the bill.
It's not good for them, but, you know, I can't keep absorbing the cost of, you know, high fuel. You know, but they will understand. You know, I will put it to them, and hopefully they will.
Motoring groups say while businesses can pass on the cost to their customers, personal motorists are held captive by the price at the pump.
Most people have to drive. They don't do it for fun. There isn't always an alternative to driving. People need to get to work. They need to get to the shops, take their children to school. So they know they've got a captive audience. And so because of that, the chances are that we'll see increases in fuel duty over and above what are already planned.
Since this time last year, diesel prices have fluctuated, at one point dropping below £1 a litre. But since August, they've steadily been rising. Motorists filling up in Northampton are fed up.
You're constantly looking at prices in stations and trying to find the cheapest one, and yeah, it's got right out of hand now.
They're quick to go up and slow to come down. That's the problem, isn't it?
And I can see it filling up less and costing more and more for less and less fuel.
There's more bad news to come, with the New Year increase in VAT adding around 2p a litre, and the government's April fuel duty increase adding at least another penny. With oil tankers on standby off the east coast, the only winners appear to be the oil speculators. Neil Bradford, Anglia News, Northampton.
Well, moving on, the bodies of 2 servicemen from our region killed in Afghanistan were flown back to RAF Lyneham today. The families of Rifleman Andrew Fentonman from Oakington near Cambridge and Corporal Lauren Martin Thomas from Essex watched as a funeral cortege passed through the town of Wootton Bassett. Hundreds of people, including current and past servicemen and women, lined the streets to pay tribute to the 2 men, both killed last Sunday.
The company, which runs trains between London and Norwich, says it'll cut journey times by half an hour within 5 years. The boss of National Express East Anglia made the pledge at a conference in Norwich today. Andrew Chivers also promised new intercity trains and improved infrastructure. Last week, the government renationalised the East Coast Main Line, which runs through Stevenage and Peterborough, after National Express ran up huge losses on the line.
We have made major improvements on this route since we took the franchise over in 2004. A lot of good people working hard to do that across National Express East Anglia, and we're committed to carry on doing that.
Delia Smith received her CBE from the Prince of Wales at Buckingham Palace today.
Miss Delia Smith, for services to the food industry.
Yep, her career has spanned more than 40 years and she's sold more than 20 million books since releasing How to Cheat at Cooking in 1971. Her TV career started 2 years later and, along with her husband Michael Wynne-Jones, she's now the joint majority shareholder at Norwich City Football Club.
Oh, good old Delia, I love her. Now,